Good evening. Hello. Oh my god, I've got so much stuff to talk about this evening. I feel like I could talk for like an hour. Why don't we maybe split it into different videos? See how we do for time. For number one, what to talk about? I think maybe the thing that's just on my mind the most, which is the chat I had last night with David Nassim about nutrition. This is round 2. I had a conversation with him last week, which I mentioned in my video, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. So, as noted, David is Guy's Qigong teacher, but an expert in nutrition, but coming from a different background, a Chinese medicine background. He's studied plant medicines from all over the world. He studied Ayurveda. He's studied nutrition from lots of different angles. Fascinating guy, really rooted in the Taoism, which is for me the ingredient of Buddhism, which is what I attune to, and Taoism is basically what is infecting more and more of my life and influencing me more and more, and it's everything for me. Anyway, so why don't I talk about some of the kind of conclusions or things that I talked about with David, putting them into my own words, and saying and sort of expressing how much of a breath of life this has been for me, and how things are starting to click into place. Now, you see, with nutrition, for me, this was something I had identified in my year review at the end of last year as an area which there was just a more my relationship with food. It's much more heady and thinky, and there's a lot more shit there than there is with, everything else in my life, really. Well, most other things in my life. My relationship with food, and I guess, food is probably the biggie. So, and I've been grappling with this idea of, intuitive eating. It feels like the holy grail, where you can just eat in line with how you feel like eating, and that's going to make you feel healthy. But the problem for me has been that, growing up I was a tubby kid, so I didn't trust my impulse, and then I read books on how to get in shape and became superficially in great shape, but actually was thinking about diet and nutrition the whole time. So I went from one extreme, from impulse, to the other of discipline. And a point that David made, which just, wow, it really hit home for me, was that the approach to diet, of getting the most, scientifically perfect diet, of thinking, how do I adjust the coordinates to make things, just right for me or whatever, it has this end-gaining type of try to find solution-seeking kind of approach, which isn't healthy. It leads to overthinking. You're just trying to find an answer, hold on to something, grasp something, and that's not the way. That's not how the world works. Life is change, and I've found the more I try to grasp onto answers, the more things change, and you can never find some sort of concrete way of eating or living for your whole life. It's fluid. It's much more fluid than that. And as such, I think that it's like, I draw an analogy with other things in my life I've looked at. So, for example, posture. People look at like what is the perfect way to stand, and they draw diagrams, and they say this and this, and you need to do that. But actually, that approach to posture just makes you overthink it the whole time, and constantly be like thinking about how to perfect your posture, and it leads to you going crazy. And that is something which I actually realised I'm doing far, far less of now. And I used to obsess about loads. Oh fuck! Actually, I am really doing that less now. That's great. But I'm learning to trust my body more, realising that actually my body knows how it should be, and when I tell it what to do based on formulae, it's like, no, my body and nature is far more intelligent than my ideas about nature. And as I've gradually surrendered control to nature, wow, my posture's become so much more smooth, and it's so much less thinking and yum. Same with breathing. People talk about breathing techniques and they obsess about how to breathe properly, when actually your body knows how to breathe. So now I'm moving to applying that same attitude of surrender to nutrition, to my body, which is fascinating new territory. Because now it's like, when eating food, I'm not being like, okay, I'm just going to do the maths and figure out how many calories I need, how many grams of protein, this, that, other, to completely ignore my body, but actually to engage with the food and feel it out, feel how it tastes, and feel its effect on the body, the energetics of the food, and how it works on me specifically. And this approach is like, it's that kind of mindful eating approach which I've been looking for, but isn't the mindful eating approach that is in all the books, which is kind of annoying, and it's just another subtler form of applying equations where you're like, okay, you take breaths here and you do your mindful eating exercise. It's all based on exercises and bullshit. Whereas this intuitive eating, this way of eating intuitively is like, it's different. It's there's no rules, no game plan, and it's just pure openness to how your body feels in the moment. No thinking twice, you just act, as David said. And that is, you have full responsibility now. You're like, oh fuck, right, like I can actually eat whatever I want, I can do whatever I want. Wow. And the funny thing is that what I've realised with this and other things is that people have said to me, like, oh well, if you don't stop yourself from doing anything, if you don't, have those shackles on, then surely you'll just go crazy and do terrible things. If you don't have rules to abide by, surely you'll be bad. I think that's really not true at all. I think that our innermost nature is good and beautiful and wonderful, and actually when I stop trying to tell myself how to act in any particular way, that's when I am at my best, and actually I'm at my most alive and vibrant, and I burst through, and I'm actually a much better person to be around. And with the same logic, it's like when you take away rules for how you should eat and you should do this and that, then actually your body will start to make intelligent choices for itself, because it knows what it wants. And in fact, the only times that we eat in destructive ways are at the times when we have told ourselves, no, we can't eat in that way. Because when you say, no, you can't do it, that creates some kind of weird urge to actually do it. Telling yourself no is no way of stopping the action. You need to really give yourself permission to do it. And David's words really made sense to me here, because I've noticed this with myself in so many different areas of my life. When you stop checking yourself, when you stop limiting yourself and saying, oh, I can't do this or that, then you actually, in that moment, you're free, and then when you're truly free, you make the right decisions. So for me now, this, as I speak with David and talk this through, as someone who really knows this stuff, and it's clicked. I'm like, now I know that the only extent to which I will fuck up my body and eat badly is the extent to which I discipline myself, really. Or it's either the extent to which I discipline myself on one hand, on the other hand is to just blindly follow impulse and try to medicate myself, try to comfort eat. So now we're treading a middle way with sensitivity. When I say sensitivity, I mean, say, instead of seeking discipline or impulse, we're just opening. And the other thing that the tool David gave me, which I really liked, is on how you should feel after eating. The foods you eat should make you feel energized rather than sluggish. And I'd be like, oh wow, because I'd always just thought it was a given that, when I eat food, I'm going to feel a bit shit afterwards. And I've really organized my meals in that way, so that I eat at a time when for the couple of hours afterwards I'm not really doing anything important, because I'm going to be at my worst. And I realized this is probably because I have been, without realizing it so much, choosing foods which actually intoxicate me, which numb me, which numb my emotions. I enjoy that it tastes nice in the moment, but really that tasting nice, it's somewhat of an addiction. You have this, these foods shut off your emotions. And I realised that I probably for quite some time chose foods which elicited that response the most. And what I found interesting was when David gave me food recommendations, most of the foods which I look for, as in oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to that food, they're in the list of foods which he doesn't recommend at all. He says these are the least beneficial for me. And even these so-called healthy foods aubergines and red peppers, cashew nuts and peanuts. So now it's oh cool, I'm feeling interested. I'm wow, now I'm gonna explore food in the way that I'm exploring meditation, Alexander technique and dance, and it's not a part of my life that I have to be scared about, that I have to be oh fuck, I've got this relationship with it. It's an opening, it's something to energize me, blah 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 blah. No rules. Fuck rules. I'm really, really bad with rules. So I've started making a diary where I'm writing notes about how different foods make me feel. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting process because I mean I've got a lot of like really intense history of controlling my food and over discipline. So this might be a painful process in some respects, but now this is the first time where I've been like, okay, now I've got like a framework for looking at food which makes sense to me in the context of everything else I'm doing. It feels like this now aligns. It feels like food has been an area of my life which has been kind of lagging behind other areas in terms of like, exercise and relationships and creativity, that kind of meditation. And really, if I were to make peace with it, that would really, really change my life. Really, I really, really mean that. And the other thing I think is with stimulants as well, like cacao and that kind of thing as well. It's exactly the same principle there. David said to me that I have a very sensitive body. I can really feel my body, which is very true. He said that my sensitivity will overcome my addictive sort of tendencies. I can trust that. I feel empowered. I really feel empowered. What I loved about this as well, that talking with David, he has the trait which I think is maybe one of the most important traits in teachers, which is that you come away from speaking with him feeling empowered and feeling like you have more options and you feel like expansive rather than like you've got more things to do and like, oh, and now I've got to do this, and you feel contracted and smaller. I can really, really learn from that. Thank you, David. Love you.